I was just sat down one day and I was just looking at my hands for some reason, and there was an old vintage lens which I still have, and I decided to just take some hand portraits, and I was just taking some shots and then quickly found out that maybe I should try and recreate some of the emotions I felt in the past, so put my hands in certain positions to kind of display and invoke those old emotions. So when I called it was togetherness, I just put my hands kind of like this, and then I discovered then some other shapes which kind of invoked some past emotions as well. Hi KLAT, my name is Stéphane James. This is my Get to Know Me with KLAT. Definitely the need to get a new hobby. At the time I was very bored. My first attempt at a hobby was electric guitar. I'm not a musician whatsoever, so then I decided to pick up a camera. I've always had an interest in film and images, and quickly found that was the one for me. Originally I was going to be just doing street photography. My younger brother actually convinced me to try portraiture, and after turning him down a couple of times, I finally gave in and found that I loved it. How my work has changed, it changes quite constantly, my work. I don't have an overall style that I stick to. For me, it's just constantly experimenting with my work. That's what I like to do. Before I got into photography, my only real exposure to it was my stepfather, who was a wedding photographer. So maybe subconsciously that's where it came from. But I didn't really think about photography too much until I discovered it for myself, and then it became a huge part of my life. So it's kind of gone from nothing to being almost everything, which has been quite a change for me. So that came about, hand stories. I was just sat down one day and I was just looking at my hands for some reason, and there was an old vintage lens which I still have, and I decided to just take some hand portraits, and I was just taking some shots and then quickly found out that maybe I should try and recreate some of the emotions I felt in the past, so put my hands in certain positions to kind of display and invoke those old emotions. So when I called, it was togetherness, I just put my hands kind of like this, and then I discovered then some other shapes which kind of invoked some past emotions as well. I'm quite an introverted person, can be quite quiet, but if I get into a good conversation, you won't shut me up. I love to cook, that's my other love besides photography. It was actually kind of my first hobby, which it still is, but photography's kind of taken over, but cooking is still, I would say, my second love. Sometimes it can be, let's go for something I've not done before or for a long time. Other times it can be, let's just keep things quite simple because of the nature of the shoot. I would say my approach is find something that works and go with that. Sometimes it can be, let's completely experiment. It really does vary, depending on my mood. So Endless Rush is a street photography project. I was actually on a portrait shoot on my way to one in London a few years ago, and I had some time, and I was sat down at Liverpool Street Station. I was just watching people walk past. I decided to set up my camera with a vintage lens and just do some long exposures, and I just noticed a blur, and I thought, oh, that's a really nice image and really interesting. But because I was at a train station, it was kind of, people were rushing past to get from place to place, and that's where the name came from. And It's kind of quote which I developed in my head. It was the endless rush from here to elsewhere. It's kind of like the full quote I came up with. But then the project I just shortened to endless rush, and then just went around taking long exposure street scenes just in busy places. So the place is still, but the people are just rushing past and watching the blur go past. That's where it came about. It would have to be people. Whether that would be in a fashion shoot or something more personal, it would have to be people in some kind of scenario, definitely. Obviously, hopefully that they enjoy it, but do they feel something when they see it? Whether it's something quite superficial that they feel, but hopefully that they feel something would be my main want, yeah, definitely. In terms of support, friends and family have been very encouraging. In terms of, I would say inspiration more than direct influence. The late Peter Lindbergh, who was a fashion photographer who sadly passed away a few years ago. The one thing which I love his work for is that he doesn't retouch his images, which is something that I don't do. And he shot for the biggest fashion houses in the world during the supermodel era, so the likes of Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, actresses, and he refused to retouch them. It was just, this is who they are and this is who I'm going to show them as to the world, and I love that about him. Another influence I would say is Paula Franchi, who's a photographer based in New York, and her work is just amazing. Every image of hers that I see, I feel something, and that's something I've tried to bring into my work as well.